All right, so welcome everybody to 7 Feet Under. I have a very special guest here, good old Vic Shy from the Horror Mind. How you doing?
Good man, how's it going? How are you?
I'm doing great with my tiny ass channel. I very much appreciate a legit horror channel coming over to mine. Love it.
I'm just, I'm just a horror movie fan. That's it, man. Just a horror movie fan. That's all.
Well, hey, I mean, this will be a little bit different for you because we're going to be talking about Terrifier 3, and it's definitely not an Asian horror movie, which is
Nope.
your specialty.
Yes. So it's not an Asian horror film, but yeah, this one's definitely making some noise, and a true horror fan has to talk about Terrifier 3, especially during the Halloween season.
Yeah, it's the latest attempt at making essentially a modern slasher.
Yeah. Yeah. So I honestly can't remember the last time aside from like whenever they tried to bring back Halloween, which I think ended terribly, by the way, if that's a conversation for another time.
Halloween ends
Yeah.
sucks so
Oh gosh.
hard.
Well, I feel like we're gonna have to make another video because I can talk about that all day. But Art the Clown and Sienna, which is now our new final girl, I feel like those two are the recipe for a new classic or cult classic rather slasher franchise. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I actually really like how they're trying to essentially make this a higher end slasher movie. You'd think, like, kind of at face value, it's kind of one of those lower end kind of slasher movies, but it actually isn't. With each sequel, they're actually making a story. And I know I'm probably going to get a ton of flack for this, but when it comes to the classic slashers, my favorite was always Nightmare on Elm Street
Mhm.
because they had more going on than just random kills and tits. And weirdly, Terrifier doesn't really have any tits. I'm pretty surprised that it doesn't. You would think a movie series like this does. I mean, the first one does, the
Yeah.
second one doesn't. I think you get some side boob, but in
Yeah.
this third one, spoiler, no, no nudity at
Yeah.
all.
So yeah, you get that again, spoilers, because we are gonna dive into
Yeah, yeah,
spoilers
yeah.
here.
We are going to be doing spoilers here.
But you get that shower scene that most people have probably seen in the trailer. But other than that, no nudity, which I'm completely fine with because the where you would expect nudity, they just fill with gore,
Yeah.
which this film has plenty of.
Oh yeah, and also some. There's still some sexual stuff in here, just not the kind of stuff that like revs your engines. If it did, I'd have some follow up questions for you. Did you? Okay, yeah. So just going off of the I don't know. Do you want to just go ahead and get started, or did you want to say more about the Terrifier franchise?
No, we can get started right with Terrifier 3.
Okay, so it starts off Christmas themed.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think that it's a fairly decent way to start off a franchise, though. I mean, it kind of does that cheap trick that I give so many movies shit for this, where they have an introduction scene, like an attention grabbing scene that happens either in the future or in the past, and then does a time jump to like
Yeah.
actually go to the story. It's such a cheap trick, but I mean, some places do it better than others. What did you think of it?
I thought I don't want to say it was jarring. Um, I I do think it was oddly choiced, but I think it was first of all to like establish the Christmas setting. So, you had like um the family during Christmas time and the little girl comes down and sees Santa, right? And then, it's shocking because it's not really Santa. And then the
Right.
entire family gets murdered. So I think they just used that opener just for the shock value and to establish the setting because it feels like if you had put that scene in the middle of the movie, I think it would have taken away from the story. And with that being said, I think it was well placed. It kind of reminds me of Halloween Ends when they had the chapter of whatever that guy's name was that the movie was. mainly focused on. But like the babysitter incident, right? That was like different.
I
But
think his name was Corey. Is that right?
aside from like the
And
terrible
yeah.
ending and what they focused on, but it's similar to that, to where they had something like a shocker opening that's meant to shock you and really grab your attention, and then there's a time shift to where it's like 4 years or 5 years into the future or whatever. So I was okay with it. Long story short, I was okay with it.
The movie does what all of the previous ones does. It has like these insane over the top kills. And the funny thing is that there is no realm of reality where any of this could possibly happen, because the only way these kills actually work in these movies, to the point where you are laughing out loud, no matter like who you're watching this movie with,
Yeah.
people going into shock or passing out from blood loss is fiction in this fictional world. Those things don't happen. That's why you could literally have your face peeled off. You could be skinned alive, and all of your skin would be gone, and you'd still be awake in the
Mhm.
Terrifier universe. That just doesn't. You could lose all of your limbs, and you'd be railing and screaming and twisting for like 30 solid minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. To the like, I think you're referring to like the part where the fake Santa Claus at the bar is like stuck to the chair and he gets his face ripped off or whatever, or like gets frozen by the what was it? The
It's
liquid
like a whole,
nitrogen.
yeah.
No. Yeah, but it is crazy. They go way over the top with the gore, but it's fun over the top. I don't think it's overly grotesque, and it's nothing that made me go like, "Oh, this is just too much," because obviously it's not meant to be taken seriously. What did you think of the gore?
It absolutely does deliver. I mean, it pulls punches and doesn't at the same time, because right in the beginning with the Christmas one, they do kill a kid.
Yeah,
We don't see it, but
right.
it absolutely did happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And man, so I thought it was a pretty decent intro, though I think it is completely unnecessary.
You mean in terms of like the overall story? You just think that scene just had no point?
Yeah, I don't even really understand why they did this. So just for everybody to know, just to make this move along a little bit, after the Christmas thing happens, we get a text on the screen that says 5 years prior. So right
Mhm.
out the gate, we know that there is a 5 year difference between Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3. I don't know fucking why they did that, but I'll go into that in just a second.
Yeah.
But yeah, so after Art kills the family, he eats the cookies and milk that was left out of him, and then he washes the dishes.
Yeah.
He really did. He doesn't make any sense to me, but he does
Yeah.
whatever. And then we go 5 years prior, and then we pick up right where the last movie went off. And a cop is going to the Terrifier, the haunted house where the
Mhm.
finale of the last movie ended up, and he finds Art's severed head, and
Yeah.
then not severed head, decapitated body, and then his
Mhm.
body just stands up and chokes the guy to death. I think he like actually squeezes his head off with his bare
Yeah.
hands. His
Yeah.
his power level is all over the place. Do you know how strong Art is? Because he absolutely has some superhuman strength, but
Yeah.
it's not super consistent.
It yeah, so it because like he chokes the cop and then it cuts off to the body of Art the Clown with the cop's head, and then he
Right.
goes into the subway. So we don't actually see him uh like how the head came off. The only other show of strength that I saw that I remember from this movie is when the two demolition workers go into the house, and then the one goes upstairs to the attic and just starts throwing the guy just around the attic there. So I'd say he's definitely above average in strength. I don't think it's like Jason Voorhees or Michael Myers level, because Art's he's got that clown jumpsuit, that clown outfit that's like looks bloated, but Art's skinny.
Oh
Art's
man,
yeah.
yeah, the scene in the second movie where he's at the dry cleaners and he's naked.
Yeah.
Honestly, my first thought was, dude, fucking lift some weights,
Yeah,
man. You
skinny
are
man.
so
He doesn't
skinny.
lift. Art does not lift. Confirmed.
Oh man. But yeah, no, also in the second movie, another feat of his strength is he does punch through a car window, which I mean, that happens in movies all the fucking time, but a normal person cannot punch through a closed car window. No, you would shatter your hand. Your hand
Right.
would be completely useless.
Honestly, I don't remember anything from Terrifier 1 or 2 aside from the kill from each movie. So the first one, it
Oh,
was
sure.
obviously the girl getting sawed in half, and in the second one, it was like the bedroom one.
Yeah.
That's all I remember from those two movies.
And again, that bitch was still alive even after Art like cut off a few of her limbs and peeled off her face. She was like still looking around, blinking.
Yeah,
Fucking
yeah,
what?
yeah. That was wild. That was crazy.
I also think it is kind of interesting how it kind of does the whole. Did you see In a Violent Nature?
I did not see In a Violent Nature. No.
All right, well, basically, just a short story, or just to sum it up, In a Violent Nature is Friday the 13th, but from the perspective of Jason.
Mm-hmm.
And Jason, it's kind of theorized. I know in the video games you could teleport if you play the Friday the 13th game,
Mm-hmm.
but in A Violent Nature, it doesn't. You literally see him walk like 60% of that movie. And in
Right.
Terrifier, Art drives a car and he also takes the train when he loses his car. So we see him take a train and then he goes to the hospital and picks up his psycho chick that like gave birth to his decapitated head and they were eating a nurse. And then
Yeah.
the Merce, who is I think a former WWE wrestler.
It was Chris Jericho. It was Chris Jericho. Yeah.
I'm not a big. I don't know WWE wrestlers or anything, but I am vaguely familiar with them. So
Yeah.
yeah, Chris Jericho comes in, and then he gets killed. So then Art gets his head back.
Mm-hmm.
I did. If fans haven't seen the movie yet and they're looking for an answer to how the second movie ended, how it did, there is not really an answer. There is no like legitimate reason why she gave birth to his head. Because his
Yeah.
decapitated body was still moving around. So, like, what? What? I don't know.
If I remember correctly, his partner in this movie, his partner in crime, is the chick
From the
who
first movie
from the first movie.
that we
Now,
never met. She comes in the last 10 minutes of the movie, lives, and then goes insane, which I thought was a very shit idea. I'm just going to say this. I'm going to get so much hate for it, and I don't even care. The first Terrifier movie is not a good movie.
mm-hmm.
In any sense of the word. I did not like it. I thought this was mediocre at best.
Yeah.
But it made enough money to get Terrifier 2. And I thought Terrifier 2 was much better. Much better.
Yeah.
Putting aside the fact that the maid lead chick is a total babe. Promise it's not, that doesn't affect my opinion, but
Yeah.
it doesn't hurt.
Yeah. No, she does a great job. And she's a stunt actress as well.
Yeah.
She does stunts, so she did a ton of her own stunts. She in this film, again, I don't remember too much from Terrifier 2, but in this film, she shows her acting chops as well, because a lot of this movie is Sienna's character sort of trying to recover from the events of Terrifier 2. And there's a ton of moments to where she's showing a lot of emotion, and that's a really good performance on her part. Very good performance.
Oh yeah, I really hope that actress gets other roles after this, because definitely not everyone who's in these movies are good actors. She absolutely is a good actress, and I really do hope that she does become another Scream Queen. I mean, we do already have a few of those in the running, like Jenna Ortega is like a modern Scream Queen. Her, and I literally can't think of anybody else, but yeah.
Would you put Sydney Sweeney in there after
She's
Immaculate?
She's in one scare. That's not good enough. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would not mind seeing Sydney Sweeney in more movies.
Right.
It takes more than one to make you into a
Mia Goth. Mia Goth.
I loved Pearl. I thought X was. I thought it was. A lot of people really like X. I was kind of with it, and I thought Maxine was really good. So I wouldn't mind putting Mia Goth up there.
Yeah, but definitely Jenna Ortega. Definitely Jenna Ortega. Yeah.
Oh yeah. What else happens in this movie? Oh yeah, so they get it. Oh yeah, this is another aspect of the movie where I don't quite understand Art and his motivations or anything, because when they're on the train, like him and his partner in crime, the psycho chick, and I think she is a pretty cool looking like
Yeah,
monster. I think it's
yeah.
kind of weird how that's like a normal person that like
Hmm.
survived an attack. It's like, can't this just be like a demon?
Yeah.
Because it is one ugly ass looking chick.
Well, I
But
think it is. I think it is hinted at that they're both
this,
demonic.
yeah, they are both possessed. But I mean, she's ever since Art attacked her. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
But yeah, when they're on the train, Art sees a guy that's dressed up like him, and then they get a picture taken, and we know they killed him because Art is wearing that guy's clothes later. I
yeah,
think it's super weird for a guy like Art who carries around a trash bag of rusted tools. I mean, he has a lair and he just brutally rips people apart, but he cares about having clean clothes.
yeah. Like when he
Why?
went to go. Well, I guess it's all part of the image he's trying to present, right? Like his clown outfit is part of his identity, and it seems like in this film he's really he I don't want to say he has an obsession, but he's really particular about having like the perfect Santa Claus outfit because he wanted
Right.
the beard. He wanted a real beard because the fake Santa Claus who had a real beard at the bar said, "You can't be Santa if your beard's not real." And that's the moment he kind of messed up because then Art goes and steals his beard in a really brutal way. So I think he just really cares about his appearance, and that's just part of his character, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I would. Okay, yeah, I buy that. I believe that. That's a decent motivator for him. Though you'd think, I mean, he would go through a little bit more effort into keeping his clothes clean. Like, what's that movie? Um, American Psycho.
American Psycho, yeah,
Yeah,
Patrick
there you
Bateman.
go.
Is that a raincoat? Yes, it is.
Yeah,
um, and yeah, so they weirdly go to Art's lair after he got a change of clothes. He makes a weapon, and then they just veg out, like literally for 5 years.
for 5 years, yeah,
The chick goes into the a bathtub and does a little draws some pretty lines on her wrist with a piece of
yeah,
glass, just for YouTube's sake, trying to keep it a little
exactly,
safe.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
sits in a tub and that's it. And then Art just rocks a chair upstairs, and then the screen just fades to black. Present day. What was the point of all that? I don't understand why there's a 5 year jump between the last movie and this movie.
Yeah, that didn't make too much sense, because I guess it's sort of trying to say that if those two demolition workers didn't go in there, they would have just sat there frozen in time until somebody went in there.
Right, yeah, that's what happens like in present day. After we jump back, two guys come in and essentially awake them, even though
Yeah,
they didn't touch them. They just stood next to them and kind of, I guess, spoke to them. But
yeah,
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 I don't know. I also, oh yeah, his new partner in crime in this movie is the psycho chick from the first movie. Did
yes.
you like that they essentially retconned the clown girl out of the movie?
You know what I think? I think that clown girl, because there's definitely a backstory to that clown girl, and obviously Art went back to that house, and the his sidekick puts on makeup, puts on like an Art the Clown style outfit. I think that little girl's spirit is inside his partner. What do you think?
If you do a lot of kind of mental gymnastics to try to make it work, yes.
Right.
But why? Could they just not get that same actress back? I mean, they're doing a 5 year time jump. So even though it was a kid, even though she had a growth spurt in the year between Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3, you could have still recast her like just as fine. Which I mean,
Well,
that I'll bring that up again when we talk about the younger brother, because yeah. But
yeah. Well, the little girl, or if you'll remember, the little girl was a figment of his imagination in the
but
second film.
our characters did see her, so it's not like it was just in Art's head. I think it's only certain people could see her.
but she was definitely, there was definitely something spiritual about her to where I think that she's like a spirit.
Yeah.
And I think that whenever
They
his
killed
partner,
Art.
or
Uh,
whenever his partner went into the house, the spirit of that little girl sort of went in her. That's the only way I could really think to explain it.
so I'll try. So after they legitimately killed Art second movie, she had to possess a real person, and that chick was already a psychopath. So it was
Yeah,
basically just an easy like door to into the real world. So
yeah,
the little clown girl possessed the psycho chick, gave birth to Art's severed head. Let's just pretend that's how you resurrect psycho demonic psychos. So she did that because she really liked Art or something. So that happened. So now the little clown girl is now the psycho chick. So that's the same demon. And Art, I guess, is a second demon. It's not just like one playing with two people. It's
right,
two
right.
separate. Yeah.
It definitely seems like um it'll reference Rob Zombie's Halloween,
Hmm.
to where the visions, or the white lady that was like Michael's mom was the one keeping him alive, or
Oh,
driving.
yeah.
I think it's like that, because not to jump to all the way to the end of Terrifier 3, but when his partner dies and she becomes ooze, it opens up a dimension to like the demonic world.
Yeah.
And I think that Sienna's definitely going into that demonic world in the fourth film, and I think we're going to get a lot more answers. There's a lot of things they can do, because just the fact that we know they're demons, because I don't think that was established in the first or second film.
No.
Now they're demons. There's a demonic world, so there's a whole thing you can explore there in a Terrifier 4. And if you want to, in the Terrifier 5, if you want to explore like more backstory, you can do that as well, because there's a whole backstory with that house that Art decided to go to, which is obviously his house. There's a whole movie there as well, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind if they did spin-offs or anything like that, but the director did say that the fourth is going to be the last one, and
Oh, really?
oh yeah, he made that public, and I am
Okay.
super okay with that because I get it. There are plenty of different kinds of horror fans. There's definitely the kind that really love Friday the 13th. There's no there's no end game goal with any of the Friday the 13th movies. They just kind of pull it out of their ass after for every sequel. There's no plan or story like connecting the movies or anything like that. It's just whatever. And
Yeah.
then you have some other slasher movies where they actually do have kind of a planned or an actual conclusion, and they do bring out returning characters. Like, so my favorite Nightmare on Elm Street is just the first three. The third being, personally, I think it's the GOAT. But they did bring back Nancy from the first one to it, so it does kind of have a conclusion for that character, that story. So I'm super okay with Terrifier 4 ending the story of Art with Sienna. Like
Yeah.
either they both die or only one of them dies and the other one goes on. Probably maybe Sienna lives, or yeah, not to jump to the end of this movie, but yeah, I'm very okay with them just being done with
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
All right. You want to go on to the next part of the story?
Yeah. So her brother, um I didn't like, I'm just gonna be honest, man. I didn't like where they took the brother in this movie. It seems like for some reason, and I get it, right? Everybody um deals with trauma differently. Okay. But
Some like a bitch, but go on.
you know, he was like, if it almost feels like he was judging Sienna to a certain extent, when in the second film, from what I remember, like he was the one saying, hey, this is what's happening. Like he was super bought into the idea that they, Art the clown, and they hint at it that, even shortly after the incident, he said this, he was talking about the little girl, he was sending Sienna letters, and then he just stopped. And then he became judgmental. It seems like he was distancing himself from her. And I just didn't like that. I didn't see. I don't remember any point in time to where we actually got any bonding from the two out of the traumatic incident that they experienced in Terrifier 2. It seems like he was more worried about like going to that party, which he didn't go to, which he did go to. We don't see any of that, and then he just gets killed off screen.
Yeah, I thought this whole thing with the whole 5-year time jump, I thought this was a decision story-wise. I would have definitely preferred if this story literally just took place 2 months after the last movie, or at least just a year. I mean, 2 months is not like a ton of time, but if they didn't have any broken bones, I mean, a lot of their cuts would have healed to a relative length, and then they just become obsessed with trying to figure out, like, did we actually survive this or whatever? But yeah, no, okay, so just kind of bringing it back, like, story-wise. So in this movie, when we get to present day, Sienna is living with her uncle, even though she's like a full-grown adult. They're just trying to help her out because she was like college.
Because she doesn't have a place to stay.
Yeah. So her uncle, I think the mom's sister. Yeah. So it's the uncle. Yeah, married.
Mm-hmm.
He picks her up from a clinic because I guess she's just been in the psych ward for the past 5 years. Picks her up to go live with them. Meanwhile, the whole time, I guess the brother we don't know what the hell he's been, because they say like literally in the second movie, he was 12. So he started. So 5 years later, he's 17 or 18, depending
probably
on
in college, first year of college or something like that.
Yeah, this was definitely him in college.
Yeah,
in this movie, we don't really know anything about that, like where he was staying for the past 5 years, because obviously he's an underage kid. Was he staying with the uncle and aunt too? There's really not a whole lot. He's basically, even though he should be arguably the second most important character in this story, other than the villain, he's really just kind of an afterthought.
Yeah.
And no offense to the kid, he's not a very good actor. He's not that. That kid needs a little bit more practice.
So yeah, I think I'm glad you brought up because I thought the same thing you did. How the 5-year time jump was kind of weird. We don't really know what's going on with the brother. It sort of feels like there's a whole movie that could take place before this one, right? Like the 1 year after Terrifier 2, there's your Terrifier 3. Things happen. They try to deal with it. The brother, tries to convince Sienna. We see Sienna in and out of the mental hospitals. Boom. You have Sienna and the brother fight Art again, and then Art goes into that frozen state that leads into Terrifier, this movie, which would then be Terrifier 4. I feel like there's a whole story missing that you could have had, because now you do this whole 5-year time jump. The brother seems like a little dick. He's shunning his sister. Sienna's in and out of the hospital. You have this whole dynamic with the uncle and the aunt and the niece or the cousin, who I don't even remember if she was in the second film or not. I don't remember that little girl.
No.
Yeah. So there's a whole story piece missing. And then they kill the brother off screen. So story-wise, I think they fumbled that aspect.
They fumbled quite a bit. And obviously in hindsight, it's easier to look back and be like fake film critics. Or, you're more of a real film critic. I'm still in the fake aspect. I'm just like, oh, I could have made such a better movie. But
yeah,
these guys they have a plan, especially since the director said the fourth will be a last one. So I don't understand the thought process in why they felt like they had to do a time jump. Like the actor who brother played a 12-year-old, a kind of a convincing 12-year-old in the last one. He's not a very convincing freshman college kid.
Yeah.
Really has not matured at all. He's still skinny kid, still acts the same, still talks the same. He's still an awkward kid. I don't think he was really that popular in grade school. So he's had no character growth. When him and his sister do finally meet up and she admits to him that she needs him, and yeah, that's a sweet moment because she's a good actress, and I bought that she was just you're literally all I have left in my life.
And he dismisses it.
Yeah. even though they literally got attacked. I mean, she saw more and experienced more than he did, but he knew his dad, which, I mean, we do see some flashbacks of the dad in this movie, though they are kind of pointless. We know the dad was having visions of Art. So some kind of psychic ability was present. So he knew that his dad was having visions of Art. And then we finally see Art. The kid should be able to make the connection. Oh, supernatural shit is real. Like, this exists and it's a part of my life. And it's part of my sister's life, who apparently had a angelically blessed sword that could only kill Art. So
he,
and then he still tries to be like, yeah, I just want to move past this. Like, it's not that big deal in my life. That you have had the most interesting life anyone has ever had.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's not like he doesn't know. It just feels like he's just trying to brush everything off, which is weird. Again, because when they're in, I forget where it's at, but I think it's in the mall, but where they have their sweet moment together, to where she said, I need you. And she reads his letter, so obviously he knows what's going on. And just, I just didn't like what they did with him. And I think, aside from fumbling that story aspect, I think having his death be off screen, if that's even him, because
yes, demons lie. It is established in this movie. There's nothing.
They lied, yeah.
Yeah, they did lie, but I do believe that there was, because if not, I would give these story writers even more shit. Because, okay, so just jumping towards the end of the movie, a lot happens in the middle. Art kills a lot of people in lots of fun, different ways. And there was another movie critic, Dan Merle. He has a huge stance against killing kids in movies. Mm-hmm. Art does absolutely kill kids in this movies. I don't think it's a hard line for me in movies. I do, every time it happens, I think the same thing. Ballsy. It is ballsy to do this, because most horror movies don't do it, and there's a very good reason for that. But whenever they do, it always has a lot of shock value. So in the mall, when Art is playing as Santa, because he's a character, he's a cheeky fucker, as Unleash the Ghouls would say. Miss those guys. I hope they come back a cheeky fucker. He gives out presents, and one of them is a bomb, blows up. I think it confirmed it's either 5 or 10 deaths and a bunch of injuries or whatever. Yeah. And then towards the end of the movie, Art successfully kills a bitchy serial killer podcast chick, which was very well deserved. No one really liked that chick. A roommate, and then ties up most of the family, kills the dad, and basically crucifies him in the house. And then
off screen,
which is all right, sure. I guess they didn't have the budget to do all of the super serious deaths, though. You could have gotten the budget from the intro, the unnecessary intro, and put it to there.
Yeah.
Not telling you guys how to spend your money, but I'm kind of telling you guys how to spend your money.
Yeah.
So they have the aunt tied up and Sienna tied up, and then there's a flayed skull in the middle of the room, and they say, "Oh, this is your niece," or "Hey, this is your daughter." Everyone's freaking out. What? No, why? And then later, the demon admits, "Oh, by the way, that's not your cousin." It's like, what? Yeah. And then they put on glasses, and then apparently, that's him. The reveal that it's the brother. And it is established. I don't know if they did this in the second movie, but in the third movie, the demons can mimic other people's voices. So that's how they fuck with people and get them to go to places. So, yeah.
Yeah. So they mimicked, what's the brother's name? Jonathan?
Yes.
Okay, so they mimicked Jonathan's voice when the uncle went to go pick him up from the party, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the uncle was on the phone with Jonathan, and Jonathan said, "Yeah, I'm inside. Come pick me up." And I guess at that point, Jonathan was already dead.
Yes.
And
don't see it. Okay, sure.
Right, and that's where the uncle dies. Man, I think you could have had a great scene of at least Jonathan just trying to fight back, or at least coming to the realization that I fucked up. This is real. He tries to fight back. Him and his uncle die, unfortunately. But I think that, like you said, that would have been much better than to have that scene in the beginning. So having Jonathan, the uncle dying off screen, not a big deal. Having Jonathan die off screen, not good.
No, it's not. And like you would think, I don't know about you, but me personally, if I had an interaction with a serial killer and I had to physically fight afterwards and I survived, I'd be hitting the weights and taking all the martial arts classes after.
You
Even
mean
if you were sure, even if you were sure that you killed him and he's not coming back, still, man, you know how much value that shit has.
so you mean you turn into Laurie Strode from 2018 Halloween?
Oh yeah, from 2018 Halloween.
Yeah.
Of my life, I would become literally obsessed. I would not become Laurie Strode from Halloween Kills, or sorry,
Right.
no, Halloween Ends, where after my daughter dies from the guy I've been obsessing over, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna live a passive life now. I'm over it. I'm over it.
You know, all these
Fuck that
passive
movie.
aggressive jabs at Halloween Ends, man, feels like we have a whole other video to make.
Oh, I'm so done. It's so easy to poke fun at that. Holy fuck, that was such a misfire.
Yeah, but so we got the off screen death
Yeah.
of Jonathan, which brings me to, I guess, my other problem with the film, which is very minor. I don't think it's a big deal. It feels like Art and his sidekick, they go into the house. This is obviously the climax.
Yeah.
He gets into a fight with Sienna.
Mhm.
And then the movie just sort of ends. Did you feel that way? Did you get that vibe, man? That it just, they had this battle and then boom, it's over.
Yeah, I mean, they obviously set it up for a sequel, which I don't technically mind because, I mean, they did pretty much kill off there's everyone in this movie who got any kind of screen time, they're dead. So yeah, everyone in the movie is dead. It's just after they have their huge fight and Sienna foolishly tries to hand a girl a sword in order to pull her up and she's holding on to the blade. I know
Yeah.
she was told that the sword would never actually hurt her. Yeah, technically it doesn't hurt you long term, but short term, that thing still slices through her hands and the girl literally falls into a pit in hell. I don't know where else the movie could have possibly gone. I thought it was a very smart move that they kept the cousin, it's not a niece, it's a cousin,
Yeah,
alive, because if they didn't and they literally killed off everyone else, I mean, then the fourth movie, the final movie, the only character being brought over is just Sienna, and I don't think that's enough for a finale. You need a few other people around to kind of raise the stakes. And this movie series is super okay with killing kids. So yeah, we got Sienna, and then we got the cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. You're right. I don't know where, how much further that could have gone, but I feel like that was just a little too short, right? Like Sienna and the mom are tortured in the living room, which feels like that goes on forever.
Well, I mean, that's Terrifier for you, man. All of
there you
these
go.
deaths go on for forever. It's like, this person's still alive? Are you just playing with your food, Art? Like after you've eaten it, or are you like still eating?
Yeah, exactly. But I was just a little underwhelmed by that entire thing. And aside from, obviously she chops off the head of the demon, and she gets a good stab in an Art. It felt like Sienna was at like a disadvantage.
Well, I mean, they technically tried to put her at a disadvantage because Art apparently shattered both of her hands.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, that means fucking nothing.
It meant nothing.
He's still able to fight, no problem.
Yeah,
She's never like, ow, my hands.
Yeah, which I wish they hadn't done that, right? Because when I looked at that, I'm like, okay, does she have like superhuman strength or superhuman healing ability? And I'm glad you brought up the fact that the sword isn't supposed to hurt her, because that's why her hands recovered or self-healed after that.
Right.
Not because she has self-healing abilities, because that would have made more sense on why she was able to use her hands during the fight without looking like she's compromised.
Now that you bring it up, she should have some kind of powers, because it kind of is established that I don't remember who says it. I don't know if it was her dad in a flashback, but they say because Art is possessed like by a demon or whatever that's come into the world, God or something essentially creates an opposition in order to combat with him. But there's nothing special about Sienna. it's just her sword. Like, because in the second movie, Art actually takes the sword because he doesn't know what the fuck it is, and he stabs Sienna right in the womb, essentially, just like right below her belly button.
Mhm.
And then when she's drowning in some kind of supernatural water or whatever, the wound heals and she's able to pull herself back out.
Right.
Yeah. So again, it's only because she was stabbed with the sword. That's the only wound. I mean, she got pretty messed up before, and I mean, she's a scrappy girl. I'll give her that. She
Yeah.
definitely doesn't pull any punches. She fights back, and I love that about her. Also, I mean, she's not bad on the eyes either. But it's just that one stab wound that heals. It's not like anything else does. So in this one, you would think like a opposition to counter a literal demon who does have supernatural powers would have something.
Yeah.
She's got nothing.
You would think, and it seems like they were trying to establish something like that with the flashbacks with the dad, because obviously the dad knows about the demon realm, because whenever the dad gave her the picture and he sort of like started seizing up whenever she was trying to grab the picture, and then you see like the red door, obviously from wherever Art came from, so he knows about that.
Yeah, he has visions,
and he knows that Sienna is special. We just don't know how special she is.
Yeah,
the full extent.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, if we're just going off of what we've just seen in the movies, all we know is that, or all we can to go off of is that she's tough. Like, she can really take a beating and still fight back, but that's it.
Yeah. I mean, she's got guts. She's willing to fight back. But other than that, I mean, nothing that your typical final girl wouldn't have, right?
Right. Just the looks, the tenacity, and that's all you really get from a final girl. It's just they're scrappy.
Yeah, so I feel like obviously, I think the demon world, or wherever Art comes from, whatever hellish world he's from, his realm, obviously Sienna's going to traverse that world. And I feel like if they're going to explore any type of powers or supernatural or anything she has outside of being the typical final girl, it's going to come into play when she goes into the demonic world, because it shouldn't be a world that normal humans can traverse, right? So
go ahead.
That's what I feel like that's where they're going to explore it, if they're going to expand on that, which I feel like they should.
And that would be a very smart move, because that's how they would basically make the fourth movie bigger and better, and not in a cheap Hollywood way, just bigger for bigger's sake. Kind of like in Romulus just kept on getting bigger for bigger's sake. I mean, I shat on that movie a little bit. It was not bad, but yeah. I want to give the movie a little bit credit too before we wrap all this up. I think they did some pretty decent foreshadowing with the cousin, and how she kept on like sneaking it. She was a snoop. She just kept, and she already knew that the present was the sword, kind of a thing, but she still did believe Sienna. She wasn't one of the people that thought she was just, her cousin was a fucking psycho. And she said, but she didn't get to open her present. And the demons, like, because the demons are playful inherently, that's what kind of makes them a little bit more intriguing. They're not just super evil for evil's sake. They have other personality traits. Other than the violence making me laugh out loud, because it does. I don't know if it makes you laugh out loud, just how far they take the violence. When the demon wrapping paper, and she's like, "Did you wrap this yourself?" Yeah. Shitty work. Nice little laugh right before the movie gets into its final act.
Yeah, that was good. I like that. I didn't mind the cousin character. It feels like they replaced the brother with the cousin, whereas the brother should have been in that role. They brought in a totally new character for what, I don't know, right? Because I guess
it kind of attacked them on a personal level. Maybe the directors and the cast and crew knew that that little girl was a better actress than the brother. They're like, we got to kill this kid off and get someone else into
Yeah,
this role.
something, man. It just feels like he was just written off, just to be written off, right? It sort of feels that way, or I guess your contract obligations or whatever. But it does feel like he was replaced with the cousin, and the backstory that they tried to, because they made it seem like the cousins were so close and so tight knit, and they just loved each other so much. And I'm like, I don't remember that little girl from anywhere, you
Right.
know. And I kind of got confused. I'm like, okay, was there? She definitely has a brother, so where's he at, you know? And then they finally show him in college. I'm like, okay, well, there he is. But it definitely feels like she stepped into his role, whereas it should have been him that fell into the pit of hell, and Sienna trying to rescue her brother in the fourth movie. I feel like that would really make a complete overall story.
Right. And yeah, they did get a bigger budget for the second movie, but there was still some plenty of moments that actually like stood out. Like this is not like a high caliber crew. This is not a high caliber production. And one of those they do kind of reference in this movie, and I did kind of like the mom actress in the second movie. She was not a good actress, not even a little. She just cursed a lot. And I liked how they brought this up in this movie when they were reminiscing about the mom character, because she didn't really have too many lines in the previous one that made us actually like her. She was just a mom that was overwhelmed and cursed a lot. They're like, she really had a mouth on her. And I was like, oh, that's kind of, kind of nice.
Yeah. So, the budget again, $2.5 million nowadays. You really have to stretch a budget like that. And I feel like they do a pretty good job of that. It definitely has that early 2000s grindhouse feel to it.
So look like I don't know what, like if it's like a filter or something like that, but the look of the movie looks the exact same as all the others. I mean, the first one being like the lowest. I mean, they definitely looked a little bit cleaner in the second one. Third one looks pretty much exactly the same as the second one.
Yes. So 2 and 3 definitely feel like they're like, companion. They're like companion pieces, right? They fit. Whereas the first ones, it was sort of like, okay, we're taking this character from an anthology horror film, and let's see what making an entire movie about him will be like. So the first one was definitely like a test run. People ate it up, and so like, okay, well, now we have a little bit bigger budget than we had from the first. So let's see how far we can stretch that. Same thing with this one.
Yeah. And I hope they don't get too much. I mean, they are going to hell in the next one. I don't know how much that would be production wise or anything like that, but they definitely, because the last movie only made like what, 20 million, something like that. I don't think they should really, for the next one, go more than 5. Yeah, no, it's just a double from this one, and then obviously they just spend a huge money on practical effects and set pieces. Even do miniatures, like do the Lord of the Rings method. I mean, miniatures is definitely how they would be able to save money in that regard. Do people even do miniatures anymore?
I couldn't tell you. Other than like, stop motion, that movie. And
I did like that one.
Hereditary, they had like the house, and they had these really cool moments to where like you look at the miniature and then the dad like walks in. So but speaking of box office and like budgets and stuff, because I love looking at like movie math and numbers and stuff like that. So Joker Folie à Deux bombed. Folie à Deux. Dude, Terrifier 3 just this past weekend made about $18 million opening weekend. That's the entire box office of the second film in its first weekend. Wild Robot, 13.5, I think, beat out Joker 2. Joker 2 fell 81%, and it made $7 million its second weekend.
Oh man, everyone is shitting on that movie. No one fucking likes it. Even the people who made the movie were just like, "Yeah, we were kind of forced to do this," and I'm just like,
Yeah.
"Okay, man, you really."
I mean, you want to talk about like trying to go bigger? You know, they tripled the budget from the first film,
And
and
I hear a huge chunk of that movie is a recap of the first movie, so half of it is pointless.
that was, I tell you what, that was that was my most anticipated movie this year,
Mm. Ooh, I'm
and
sorry.
yeah, and I had more enjoyment watching Terrifier 3 than I did Joker 2, and I think that reflects in this past weekend's box office, man.
Oh yeah, no, that it makes complete sense to me. It does, yeah. And you would think, like at face value, Terrifier is a franchise of just a schlocky, over the top slasher movie. The
Yeah.
bar is not really supposed to be that high for these kinds of movies. And the Joker, just going off of the first one, is a very high end drama thriller, like one of the most depressing movies ever. It just became like one of the most successful movies, like of its like it's like what is it? The most successful R-rated movie
Yeah,
ever?
before Deadpool and Wolverine, yeah.
Yeah, huge success. So obviously a follow-up, and again, Lady Gaga is not a bad actress. I've
No,
seen a
she's
few of the things she's in. Like I like her.
yeah.
She's not just like a singer, just like she. It's not like some WWE wrestlers going in just like, yeah, I got screen presence. Let's make a movie.
Like
No,
Chris
like
Jericho.
she's actually good. Yeah, like Chris Jericho. Yeah, no, like Lady Gaga's got some pretty decent acting chops. So you would think, yeah. And
So
Joaquin Phoenix, yeah, yeah.
let, let,
I don't fuck her.
let me
Though.
ask you this. Let me ask you this because this is an interesting topic. Do you think that if Joker 2 resonated with audiences and audiences loved it, that the Terrifier 3 box office would have been lowered? That like, do you think it has correlation? Like Joker 2's failure sort of boosted Terrifier 3's box office? What do you think?
I mean, it's entirely possible, though. I mean, the type of movies are so different. I'm not entirely sure that everybody who hypothetically would like Joker 2 are the same kind of people who like the Terrifier movies.
Well, think about it. They're both movies about a killer clown. Think about the first one. Think about how
You clever
people,
SOB. Yeah, okay, you got me.
think about how people. I mean, even though it's the Joker character and it's one of the most beloved villains of all time, which
Right.
it already has the hype behind that. Think about how people reacted to the violence from the first film. Like people were saying, like,
Yeah.
you know, this is one of the most violent movies ever. Blah 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 blah. And so I don't
All
think
right,
the
here's what I'll say.
audiences are too different.
All right, here's what I'll say. I'm sure there are way more Terrifier fans that liked Joker than fans of Joker liking Terrifier.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I would say, I mean, because word of mouth on the Joker movie has been pretty astounding. Like
Yeah.
everyone's talking about that's kind of like the talk of the town. Right now, the talk of the town is a bit Terrifier.
Yeah.
But I do think, I mean, I haven't seen Joker 2, and going off of everything I heard, I really can't be fucked to see it. But I saw Terrifier 3 opening night.
Exactly. Yeah. So I mean, it's just I think I just think it's such an interesting like conversation, and the timing of it is just like you have this real grindhousey, independent, over the top slasher film that doesn't really have that mainstream audience was going up against Joker 2. And the word of mouth of Joker 2 was so bad that it fell to number 3. And the Wild Robot took second place.
A children's cartoon movie.
A children's cartoon, which I hear is awesome, by the way. So I do plan on checking that out. Making a scare score on the Wild Robot. What do you think?
You take those risks, sir. I have very few subs and views. I gotta be delicate with them. You can take those chances. Oh man, the last chance I took was doing a review going over which should you see, The Substance or Never Let Go, because they were in theaters at the exact same time. Fucking no one really watched that video. I'm like, that's the last time I'm gonna take a risk. just going to
Dude.
be very formulaic from here on out.
I've been taking a ton of risks on the channel recently. I don't know if you've noticed, but I've been like kind of not stepping away, but I kind of took a break of reviewing like Asian horror films for a while. I went like 2 or 3 scare scores without reviewing an Asian horror film because, dude, I kept getting hit with like these copyright strikes from Japan, from Thailand. I'm like, well, I don't want to get hit with copyright strike after copyright strike, man, or claim, not strikes. So,
I mean, entire
definitely,
countries can get fucked. But yeah, sorry.
it's definitely a risk when I don't review an Asian horror film. So I'm a risk taker. I'm a risk taker, man.
There you go. I did see that you did review Exuma, which is kind of like probably the biggest foreign film of the year this year.
Horror wise, yeah.
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 I'm trying to think of another scary. No, When Evil Lurks came out last year, and that's Latino or Spanish.
Yeah, Argentina. Yeah.
That one was great, but I can't really think of any other foreign scary movies that came out this year.
And I do run into that problem. A Thai horror film that just came out, Death Whisperer 2, just recently came out in Thailand. I'm sure to be picked up by Netflix. That's a popular one. But as far as as far as new Asian horror movie releases, there's not that many. But I always find that the love for old Asian horror films still stands the test of time, man. When I love reviewing Asian horror films from like the early 2000s, like The Grudge, The Ring, Dark Water. Those movies are awesome, and I think that's when horror movies peaked, in my opinion, was the early 2000s.
No, man, I absolutely love revisiting old movies. The Halloween marathon that I'm doing with my siblings. For a lot of my picks, I picked a lot of the classic ones. I did Frankenstein, Dracula. What else? Oh, Creature from the Black Lagoon. I saw that the other day. That one holds up really well for a movie that came out in the 50s. Holds up really well because these people are just swimming in the waters in the Amazon, and I'm like, why? There's no way you could see shit during that time. And The Thing from Another World. That is a great movie.
Is it?
Yeah. Yeah, obviously The Thing that came out in the 70s or the 80s.
I think they came out in like 82.
Yeah, that's one of the best horror movies of all time. I would fight anyone on that. The Thing from 82 is phenomenal. But The Thing from 1951, that one's really good too. Obviously, you have to be cool with black and white kind of talky movie. But yeah, I think they really did super well with it.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, man. One of my favorite horror movies of all time that I think still stands the test of time is The Shining. Kubrick's The Shining.
Shining's a good one.
Yeah, dude. It's man. So just bringing it back to our final thoughts on Terrifier 3, because dude, it seems like you and I could go off on a tangent about horror movies. We could talk about it all day, and it seems like we may have maybe a podcast idea on our hands here.
Oh,
I don't know.
Don't tempt me with a good time.
So, man, I guess I'll start us off. My overall thoughts on Terrifier 3. It's a good time. There are a lot of things about the story I didn't like. A lot of story choices that they made that I wasn't too fond of. But overall, I think it's a good sequel to Terrifier 2. I don't think it's as good as Terrifier 2. I think Terrifier 2 is superior to Terrifier 3, and it feels like they definitely try to up the gore. The kills are awesome, and you get what you came for. Art the Clown going crazy, doing some crazy kills during Christmas. Sienna being a badass, being awesome. And I think we may have another movie where you can watch during Halloween and Christmas. So numerics wise, 7 out of 10.
Nice. Yeah. I would agree with you to give it a 7. Maybe, I don't know. I might be a little particular, give it like a 7.1 or a 7.2 out of 10. Yeah. I did like it. I definitely am enjoying this franchise the more iterations it goes. I know there's only 3, but I was not a huge fan of the first one. Second one, yeah, that's a good time. This one is also a good time. The only way I could really recommend it to people is if you were a fan of Terrifier 2, because it's definitely more similar to Terrifier 2 than it is the original. I do have this other horror movie friend. It's called Rainbow Fright. I don't know if you know who she is, but she actually likes the first one the most. And I'm like, fucking really? But there's some people like that.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to recommend this to other kinds of horror fans. If you like over the violence and practical effects, then Terrifier is up your alley. I'm sure you've already seen it because this is the 3rd one. I do recommend it. I like it. And I'm actually fairly excited for the 4th and the finale.
Yeah, me too. I think it sets up the 4th film really well. Again, because there's a whole other dynamic, a whole other thing that they are going to explore in the 4th film, and I can't wait to see, because now it should be Sienna doing a whole bunch of badass things, because if this is your finale, it better be big, right? Like, think of your Lord of the Rings, the Return of the King type. This is where the most things should be happening. So I'm looking forward to it too. I think it's the perfect movie for this Halloween season, and I think it came out at a great time. And I think I definitely recommend it for people looking for a good time, whether it just be a normal good time at the theaters, or you want to have a good time at the theaters because it's the Halloween season.
Yeah, I do think of all the movies that could come out in October, this is a pretty solid one to actually see in theaters. Because, I mean, there's been so many scary movies that have come out in just this last month, and then you got this month, and this one was great. I think The Substance is still playing. That one's also a solid body horror movie that goes super over the top. If you know what I'm talking about, that ending is holy shit.
I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, no, that is a really good one.
Okay.
Surprisingly, way more nudity than Terrifier 3. And Terrifier 3 had none, so I know it's a low bar, but that movie's that you got TNA right in your face with The Substance, so you got that. But hey, man, this has been a blast,
dude. Yeah, awesome.
I can't believe it took this long for us to have it happen.
4 years, 4 years.
Yeah, I knew you before you were monetized, and here I am, still not monetized.
Hey, that's all right, man. Just enjoy the process, and even if I wasn't monetized, man, I'd still be doing this. I just love talking about horror movies, watching horror movies, talking about horror movies. It's just right up my alley, man.
Oh, I got a question for you before we go. Watching, I mean, because you are doing this is essentially like, I mean, your channel is pretty substantially sized. That probably makes you watch more horror movies. Do you ever feel like the more horror movies you watch, the less interested you are in other movies?
No.
So okay.
I do watch a lot of horror movies, obviously because of the channel, right? But I'm a man of the arts, man. I appreciate all types of films. Like just last month, or was it last month? Yeah, maybe, or 2 months ago, I dived deep into House of the Dragon season 2, right? And I was, dude, every week I was watching that. I'll probably dive into The Penguin. I want to check out Shogun. So yes and no, because this is what I do, and I have to watch horror movie films for the channel. I don't have time to watch as much time to watch other forms of media and genres, but I still very much appreciate them when I can.
Fair enough. I would say I'm typically on that same boat, though. I do get a lot more fun and joy out of the scary movies, obviously, especially over the dark comedies. And I think Terrifier 3, I guess it's not a dark comedy, but the violence is so over the top it makes you laugh. So it almost kind of is for me.
Yeah. I feel like this one didn't have us. Again, I don't remember too much about the second one. I think the second one got more laughs out of me than this one did.
Yeah, I'd say that. I mean, because you don't have a mom who's making up for her acting chops by just saying, fucking really? Like every 2 lines.
Yeah. but yeah, man, this was awesome. Thanks for having me on, brother, and I'd love to do it again whenever possible, man. Just let me know, and we'll try to get something going.
Done deal. Take it easy.
Sweet, you too, man. Take care.